beyond the area of misconception or Maya. The extent of Maya is up to the highest planet in the material world, or Satyaloka. Beyond Satyaloka is the Viraj river and the world of consciousness of Brahmaloka, and then the spiritual sky, otherwise known as Paravya. The pure name of Krishna must have its origin in Paravya, Paravyoma. Paravyoma. The pure name of Krishna must have its origin in the Paravyoma, or otherwise known as the spiritual sky. And if we are to examine it further, the holy name of Krishna really comes from the most original plane of all existence, Braja Goloka. According to this understanding, the sound must have its origin in the highest plane of the spiritual world, in Vrindavan, if it is to be considered the genuine Krishna Nam. The mere physical sound is not the holy name of Krishna. A true conception of the holy name is necessary, not only to free us from this world of misconception, but also for the attainment of service to Krishna in Vrindavan. Only that true name of Krishna, which has its origin in the plane of Vrindavan, can lift us up and take us there. Otherwise, although the spirit is within the name, if the sound we vibrate is based on any other conception, it may only take us to that layer of conception. This is quite scientific. It is not unreasonable. The mere word Krishna is not the holy name. What is important is the meaning of that sound and the depth of meaning, the deep conception of the meaning of the name. That is everything. It is all important in serving our purpose. There is a nice story that illustrates this point. When our spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, was a young boy, both he and his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, went to visit the holy place of Kulinagram, which is located in the Hooghly district near Calcutta. Kulinagram was a village where the great devotee Haridas Thakur, as well as other famous Vaishnavas, used to live, and was the home of 4 generations of devotees. This is the story. The haunted temple. They went to visit that ancient holy place, and just on the outskirts of Kulinagram, as they were entering the village, they passed by an old temple. Suddenly, a man came out of the temple and humbly asked them, "Please stay the night here. In the morning you may enter the village and take darshan of all the places there." Bhaktivinoda Thakur and our Guru Maharaj, who at that time was a young boy, stayed the night in that temple house. Just after nightfall, as they were resting, Bhaktivinoda Thakur experienced something quite unusual. He found brickbats were being thrown about from different directions, and he thought, how is this happening and why? Who would throw big brickbats like this? Then he had some apprehension that there might be ghosts living there. Creating disturbances, he began loudly chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. After some time, the disturbance disappeared, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta passed the rest of the night there peacefully. In the morning, they entered the village and began visiting the different holy places. After some time, one of the local gentlemen noticed them and said, "You entered our village early this morning. Where did you come from? And where did you spend the night?" Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained, "We stayed in that temple just outside the village there." One of them said, "Oh, how could you stay there? There are so many ghosts living there that throw stones and bricks at anyone who passes by that place at night. How could you stay there?" And Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, "Yes, you are right. But when I found such a disturbance there, I began to loudly chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and subsequently the problem disappeared." The men of the village then asked Bhaktivinoda, "Who are you and where are you coming from?" Then they came to know that he was Bhaktivinoda Thakur. They had already heard of him, and some of them had read his books. They welcomed the 2 of them and showed them all the holy places they had not yet seen. At one point they said to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, "The gentleman who was formerly the priest of that temple was transformed into a ghost after his departure. Since that time, we have regularly seen the disturbances caused by that ghost. Why did he become a ghost as the priest of that temple? He used to regularly chant the holy name of Krishna, and we are witness to that fact. We have already heard him. Why was he turned into a ghost? We cannot understand this, so please explain. Bhaktivinoda Thakur told them that the priest must have only repeated the syllables of the name, the Nam Akshara. What he was producing was only a mayic sound, or a physical lip-deep sound. It did not have the spiritual essence. The life of the name was absent. When he was chanting, it was nama aparad, or offensive chanting. Bhaktivinoda asked them, what was his character? And they said, he was not a good man, actually. He committed many sinful acts, that we know, but we cannot deny the fact that he used to chant the name of the Lord, almost always. How could he become a ghost? Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained that the physical sound of the name is not the name proper. The priest had been committing offenses to the holy name, otherwise known as Namaparad, and as a result he became a ghost. They asked, then how can he be released from that wretched condition? Bhaktivinoda said, if he meets a bona fide sadhu who has a genuine connection with Krishna, and he hears the real name or the proper explanation of Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam from his lips, then he may be released from his ghostly condition. It is mentioned in the scriptures that this is the only way to become free from the entanglement of material nature. After this discussion, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati left Kolinagram. And from that day on, all the troubles caused by the ghost at the temple in Kolinagram, they ceased. The villagers were astonished, and one of them said, that priest who had become a ghost must have been released from his ghostly condition after hearing the holy name chanted by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So just as a quick mention is that he mentioned that the priest who was living at the temple, he was chanting the name, but on the side also committing sinful acts. So because he was not chanting the name purely, he was causing some offense to the name that caused him to get some reaction, which then resulted in him becoming a ghost. So it's not just a question of just chanting the name, or as the phrase is, lip service, but you have to become a good servitor, a good example, so that the name will descend. You're not bringing the name is descending to you. It's not a bottom-up process, it's a top-down process. It's always top-down. You are becoming an instrument, and the name is descending to you. It's not the other way around. You're not forcing it. It's not it's somehow by your strength. You can chant 16 rounds every day, and you force Krishna to descend. Even though it may purify you, it's obviously good to chant rather than not chant. But here in the example, you have a pure devotee of the Lord who's coming into a place, and through his chanting, he's removing all negativity in the place. However, if some random person was to go and chant, then the results wouldn't be similar. It depends on the caliber of devotee. Someone else, they may have gone there, they could also chant, but it wouldn't be potent in the same way that when Bhaktivinoda did it. So there is a big difference there. But either way, it says, to continue, it says, after that, many people journeyed to Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So the people, they became, these kind of examples, or you could almost classify them as miraculous events. They are some indication that the person is he has high qualification, because he can do what an ordinary person cannot do. So there are these, there's examples of they will show certain characteristics, certain actions that will be perceived by other people as exalted. And that's why people were journeying from distance to see Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because they just saw, wow, he did this. He freed this place that was haunted by ghosts. He freed it from this negativity just by his chanting. He must be a high-level devotee of the Lord. And it was the case. So they would travel quite far distances to see him. And they said to him, "We are confident that you are a great Vaishnava, and after hearing the holy name of Krishna from your lips, a ghost has been released. This story was also published in the newspapers." And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada used to recount this story of his own experiences with Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And actually, as an extra mention, miracles are also seen in all religions, by saints and people who pursue different types of religions. Miracles are not exclusive to Hinduism or to Vaishnavism. You can also see miracles in Christianity and in Islam when practiced properly, because it is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita that as you surrender to me, I will reward you accordingly. So all these prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, or other maybe not as well-known people, they worship the Lord, and according to their level of surrender, let's say, this is only an example, but let's say Jesus was, 80% surrendered. It's only an example, but he would receive 80%, you could say, of revelation. So what he is teaching is not wrong, it's good, but it might not be the highest, but it's still on the path to the Lord. Or Muhammad, maybe he received maybe 70% or 60%. Or there is a way to qualify them, but it's a bit difficult. But all religions can be more or less qualified in terms of you could rank them. But still, they're all pointing towards the Lord, and if someone is practicing it sincerely, it is good. So it's not advisable to discourage people, even if they're in a separate faith, because they have more in common with you than someone else who's not practicing. So all paths are good, so either way, this was published in the newspapers, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada used to recount this story of his own experience with Bhaktivinoda Thakur. The point is that simply the external sound of the name is not the real name. The most important thing is the spiritual realization backing the name. That is the real name. Otherwise, for example, a tape recorder can pronounce the holy name of Krishna. Even a parrot can pronounce the name. But the physical sound is not the thing itself. In the background, there must be spiritual truth, which is conscious. That is super knowledge, which is beyond the knowledge of this mundane plane. This understanding is actually confirmed by Rupa Goswami, Prabhu, in his verse, Ata Shri Krishna Namadi na bhaved graham indriye sevan mukha hi jivado swayam eva spuratyada. He says that Krishna's name or form or qualities and eternal associates, everything about him is not mundane, but purely spiritual. It cannot be perceived by our gross senses. So simply by vibrating the sound Krishna, our tongues cannot produce Krishna. Our noses cannot catch the transcendental fragrance of his body. And our eyes cannot have a vision of his beautiful figure, which is supramental. So that's why in some ways, people that study theology or philosophy, they can get, or metaphysics or all these sort of disciplines, they can get sort of arguments and logical syllogisms that lead to giving some sort of evidence of Krishna or of God. But in the same way that you can build an argument, you can also defeat the argument. So it's kind of, they cancel each other out in some ways. You can make the argument, you can defeat the argument. But actually higher than that is the experiential side of things, because people, they don't generally talk with each other and through argument come to some kind of spiritual conclusion. What happens normally is that they're seeking for something, as everyone is, and they have an experience, and then once they have the experience, they try to justify their experience using logic. But the problem is, you can't really use logic to justify, because it's beyond logic. So really, the best argument for Mahaprabhu is about experience. You go, you submit, and through revelation, through experience, something inside comes. That's the best way, and actually the way that most people they come. They want something extra in their lives. They're not satisfied. They're looking for something, or they're in pain or something, and then they seek a spiritual practice. That's why they come. They don't really argue with someone and then through a beatdown of logical arguments they then accept. So, but arguments and logic is also good. You can't. You need some. I think there's a little bit of a balance, but more importantly would be experience. I think experience does trump logic, I think. So either way, this is true not only for our physical senses, but for the mind also. Our minds cannot conceive of Krishna. He is transcendental and supramental. His existence transcends all the knowledge in our possession. We cannot be the subject and make Krishna our object. He is the subject. He exists beyond both the Atma and Paramatma. We should never forget that. We should always be mindful of the plane in which he exists. As finite souls, we are tatashta jivas, the marginal potency of the Lord. The tiny soul can think and know only those things which are more gross than himself. Just remembering a little story which is similar, which is actually sort of to do with what I mentioned before. It was that there was a court case happening in India, and there was the guy, I don't know the details, but the guy needed a very good lawyer to defend himself in the court. And he hired the best lawyer, or one of the best lawyers in India. He was so good at using logic and getting all the evidence to help his clients. And unfortunately, his weakness was he used to drink a lot of alcohol. So the night before the case, he was drunk. He was looking through the case, and he was drinking a lot. Anyway, the next day he came, and through one logical argument after the next, he was point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so many logical arguments. And at the end of it, he sat down, and the judge was, he said, that was fantastic. You pointed everything out, but you actually defended the wrong client. The client you were meant to defend, you didn't defend him. You went against him. So he was shocked, but in an instant he said, actually, this is what they could have said. And actually he went up there and defeated every one of his arguments that he'd just made on the spot. And then the client won. So anyway, this is just an example to show that, you can use logic, but you can always defeat logic with more logic. And it's never ending, basically. So, yeah, it is what it is, unfortunately. So we are, as finite, we read that already. A connection with that higher spiritual realm is only possible when the higher area wants to bring the lower up into that plane. Therefore, we should understand him. Therefore, to understand him is possible only through surrender, or sevan mukha hi jivada. If we can accept the current of surrender, if we can die as we are and surrender our innermost self at his disposal, his will can easily carry us up to the spiritual platform. Yeah, surrender is vital, because it is a real demonstration that what you're doing, you're giving yourself for that thing. It's not, because sometimes when you practice your spiritual practice, things can become monotonous. You know, you can sing, or you can read, or you can study, but you're not giving yourself fully in that moment. You have to, there has to be a real feeling or a real inner giving of yourself to that thing, and that can be seen and it can be felt by others usually. But if at some point it becomes, you know, you're just studying all day, you can go to a university to study all day. There's a difference here. There's surrender is you give up what you feel, you think you want, or, you know, for example, if you love your mother, you surrender your time to go and help her, or you give up something. You know, it's not meant to be easy. You give up, could be anything. You give up your money to give to her, you give time, you give everything. So for the Lord, it has to be the same. You have to give up your time. It's not just I serve when I'm happy. It's also I serve when I'm not happy. That's real surrender. You do it in all circumstances. So, and that makes the process real, because it's a bit deeper than just sort of external singing or external study, which, you know, people go to universities to study. People, they go to singing bands to sing. You know, even all kinds of construction work you can do in other places. But the difference here is you give yourself for the higher or the divine. Or that's meant to be the difference. And that makes it a genuine process. So, if we can die as we are, our surrender, our innermost self at His disposal, His will can easily carry us up to the spiritual platform. Our soul will become as a blade of grass in that current. And so, to be carried up into the center of the infinite, it is not that we can enter there and walk proudly as we do here in this gross material world. Here we walk on our feet, but there we shall walk with our heads. Only by the Lord's grace upon our heads can we attract that plane to take us up. Everything there is qualitatively higher than our own existence. The substance of that divine realm, the atmosphere, the air, the ether, everything there is higher than any value we might have. Only those with a sincere spirit of service may be allowed to enter there. And there will be taken and there they will be taken to the highest position of divine love by the residents of that plane, who are venerable, generous, affectionate, and filled with good wishes. We have, as our prospect, the chance to go there, but always as a matter of grace, and never as a matter of right. Yeah, there is kind of a genuine or a general sort of rot in society when people or the residents start to believe and focus only on their rights. That's why it says that never as a matter of right. We focus on what can people do for us, or what can the government do for me. That's why there's a quote by, I believe it's Abraham Lincoln. He says, focus not on what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. It's meant you give to the center, you give to your community, you give to your family, you give to to Krishna. You give the focus should be on giving, not like a parasite. A parasite takes, you know, this, and through that parasitic mentality, it destroys the community. Why is England failing as a society? Because the people start to take more than they're giving to the center. That any society cannot be maintained like that. And that's why in the Jewish tradition, I was listening to one man talking. He said the Jewish people, they have their own community where if someone has a problem, they lose their job or something, the community they chip in to give something to that guy. And then the person, because he knows everyone, he feels bad if he takes too much. So he says, I only need just what I need to get a job, and that's it. And then I don't need any more help. But if you live in a society where you don't know anyone, it's just the government is some abstract entity, people, they don't know it, so they just, give me more. And then, but actually, it's not, these things are not free. The taxpayer pays to the center then gives to people who need help. But that's not, that's if you really need the help. That's not ideal. These things, they're not free. Nothing is free. It's all energy. It's so the Jewish community probably is, that's why they do quite well, is they help each other, and that's better, really. But okay, I think we have to stop. So thanks a lot, Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gaurāṅga Rādhā Giridhārījīu ki Jai.
Jai Vira Chandra Prabhu ki Jai.
Okay.
Now I'll try on Saturdays. During summer. Now I have the time.
We want to see you every week.
I cannot promise. I can only show up when whenever I can make it, I'll come. I don't want to make any false promises. You told me last time.
Hare Krishna. Hare. Hello. 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 Hello.
She's not interested with that. You let baby, right?
Bhaja Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Bhaja Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Sri Advaita Gadadhara Surasari Gaurāṅga Vrinda. Sri Advaita Gadadhara Surasari Jai.
So I have, so that's what I wanted to ask you, because I have something, but the thing is I have, I think most of the stuff I would have. And if there is something that I might need to learn, then I can quickly put more shops in here.
I think it might be higher up, slightly higher up.
I was thinking to build the whole van.
Plenty of space. Don't worry about it. We have more than, and also, do you know the house I was talking to you about, the next door to us, it's still not sold, so their parking is free as well, so there's plenty of space, don't worry. Yeah, but, yeah, bring that here. Yeah, he will love it. Okay, I'll have some treats for him. Can you want me to give you a hand with something? Yes. Do you want to put this in the evening, Ārati?
Not today, no.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if the sound was too high.
Oh, the sound was perfect. Yeah, I was looking. Who is that singing with that nice, nice voice and a proper Ārati? I couldn't find anyone. So is that was coming from the fall?
No, this one. It's this one.
But then
It
how?
was too high. It was okay.
It was very good.
It wasn't too high or too low.
Yeah, but the background, who was singing, who we were following, it wasn't you.
Yeah, it wasn't me.
Was only you?
Yeah, there was not a set backup to
Yeah,
sing.
it's just microphone and
Yeah.
Oh,
that's why he's checking, because was he speaking too loudly or
You know the problem is
just
if the sound,
microphone?